Alrighty, and that is an intro to what is episode 164, which I was like looking at that number and I kept thinking about Crayola crayons and how you get 64 and then 128 was like the ultra mega box. And then I kept thinking that like maybe there was 106. No, don't laugh at me. There was an ultra mega box that 128 crayons. I swear to you. Oh,
Dude,
weird
so I'll,
names.
I'll show how old we are because I remember how like that mega box that you're talking about. It was a big deal that there was a macaroni and cheese color.
Macaroni and cheese, robin's egg
Great
blue.
color.
Oh, it's so good. And I think it even had the built-in sharpener in the back,
Hmm.
right?
Oh yeah.
So, that's what today's episode is going to be about, crayons. But no, we're super pumped. We've got our friend RB, and they're hanging out with us, and it's kind of super cool because they just like came off of this ultra mega tour sort of thing that actually included this band that's on my hat here. If
You're
you can
turning it
see
the
it.
wrong
Oh,
way.
nice.
Okay, I
Yeah.
still don't know what way things go, but what an incredible tour that was. The Wonder Years, Spanish Love Songs, Origami Angel, and of course you guys in Safe Face. So thank you so much for being on here. Really appreciate you taking the time to chat with us, and we will definitely get into it, especially talk a little bit about Blue Jackets hockey because we haven't really had that opportunity very much on this show. But I love it. I'm all about it. So thanks for being with us. And
Yeah,
how's it going? How's it going?
pretty good. Just, really stoked to do this, honestly. Like, I feel like most of
Excellent.
the time I'm just like that annoying person on tour who just like won't stop talking about hockey to everybody, and they're just like, Shut, I don't care." I'm like, "Okay, sorry, my bad."
No, listen. We were starting to find out, and it's taken us like 164 episodes to do it. That like almost every band has that annoying hockey person. Like,
I- it's so true.
but it's awesome because it's like that extra added camaraderie, like
Yeah,
if you're if
absolutely.
you're yeah if you're out there on tour, let's say you're just meeting a bunch of bands for the first time, and like you just casually bring up hockey, and then all of a sudden you see like someone's ears perk up and you're like, oh, that's my guy.
Yeah, right.
That's
Oh
my
my
guy
God.
or my gal or my friend for that whole tour. So I love
Uh-huh.
that. So, but
Yeah.
yeah, that's a great parallel about, being in this kind of alternative space is that so many people are hockey fans and, we get the pleasure to kind of talk about that and explore that. So, um, first and foremost, I want to hear about some experiences again from this incredible tour that you guys went on. I was fortunate enough to see you guys when you came through Orlando.
Oh, awesome.
Hell of a performance, and cool to see our friend from Scatoon come out
Oh
and
yeah.
play with you guys, and then that whole little thing that they ended up doing where they pretended to like not like you guys because you
Uh-huh.
were you were mean because you guys hated ska,
Oh
and I
my
was like,
God.
wait, is this really happening? And then I was like, no, this can't actually be happening.
Oh my God. No, it
I
was
love
great. We were
that.
in the van and like I don't know how we even got on it, but Jer was just talking about how they wanted to cancel us on the internet, and I was like, okay, here we go. Yeah, so I was like, you just tell everybody that I sent you the mozzarella stick meme, and everyone will be pissed about that.
Love it.
Yeah.
It really it's just it's so wild. But I love that kind of stuff. Who was it? Was it our buddies in Felicity that did something similar? Yeah, there's a local band from Orlando, this band called Felicity, who are awesome, really really great band,
Mhm.
and they did this whole viral thing where they pretended to kick their singer out and like have this
Nice.
like horrendous like discourse about how much they hate the guy and all this stuff, and it just ended up being like a weird social media ploy, but it worked. It got a lot of people chatting. So,
Yeah,
but
totally.
but would definitely love to hear a bit about how that tour went. I guess kind of to back it up, how'd you guys get linked up? With that tour and be given that opportunity to to go out and do that.
I mean, it really just like it's years and years of like, meeting people and knowing people. Like the Wonder Years
Sure.
have been very supportive of Safe Face as like an entity for a very long time, and
Hmm.
they just happened to be like looking for a band to fill that spot, and someone threw our name out, and that was it, you know, like we
That's
were
awesome.
like, oh, absolutely, we're gonna do this
Yeah.
insane mega tour, you know.
Yeah. I mean, like, why the hell not? And you
Yeah.
know, sometimes those opportunities just do kind of, you know, I like you say fall in your lap, but realistically, nothing falls in your lap. I mean, you know,
Right.
I know Save Face has been out there grinding for a really long time, so
Yeah.
it's I guess the comeuppance you could call it, you know, like just
Hmm.
finally getting an opportunity to do some cool stuff. But that's not this, you know, diminish any of the opportunities that, you know, the band has had before. You know, if I recall, you guys went out with Mom Jeans too, right?
Oh yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah,
in the
and
fall.
yeah, and Mom Jeans. I mean, they're, you know, that's a band that, you know, this last record they just put out. You know, they're on that cusp. I mean, they're
Right.
gonna be
Yeah.
they're gonna be enormous. So, you know,
Absolutely.
definitely a great pedigree. But you know,
Yeah.
from that tour, I guess, you know, are there any, you know, really interesting experiences that you know, the band had while they were out there? Anything kind of out of the norm, or even anything hockey related? Because I know some of the Wonder Dudes are. I think they're more casual than anything else.
Yeah.
Hockey fans, you know, I think if
Hmm.
you spoke to them all, they'd all be like, "Yeah, you know, we're Flyers
Yeah.
fans." And
Right.
but you know, any cool experiences that kind of came out of that?
Uh, Hockey related, it was really just as far as the Wonder Years, yeah, they're very casual, but their guitar tech, LJ, is a big Flyers fan.
Oh, awesome.
And so, you know, he was obviously having a rough time because that tour started in the like end of that like
Hmm.
long losing
Oh
streak of
yeah.
like
Oh yeah.
15 games or
That
something
was
like that.
brutal.
Oh my God, it was so brutal. Yeah, and aside from that, it was really just like I think I am single-handedly like bringing the entire Safe Face crew around on hockey, right? Like everybody, like Tyler is a Devs fan and like
Hmm.
Kent is a Sharks fan, so that
Sure.
already exists. But like
Okay.
it was me every day, like getting my NHL notifications, being like, guys, we have triple hockey tonight, like if all of our
Love
teams were
that.
playing, and so
Hmm.
that was always really fun. Like we would watch games in green rooms or whatever.
Love that.
Which is really great. Yeah. The one really fun hockey related thing that happened to me, we were in Houston and I like we had just like parked the van and I like ran inside because I really had to pee or something. And the
Hmm.
one of the like stage hands, I was like wearing one of my Jackets jerseys and he's like, "Oh, Jackets fan." And I was like I'm like, "Sorry." And he's like, "Oh, you just don't really see those." I was like, ow, man.
Wow. What a
Like,
jerk.
ouch. He was chill. But then I found out he was a Vegas fan, and I was like, okay.
Yeah, exactly. It's, I mean, you know, it's funny to talk about, you know, Knights fans and even, you know, and even Kraken fans, right? It's just,
Right.
you know, kind of, for some people it's definitely a flavor of the week sort of thing, but for
Yeah.
some people, and you know, like, give it to Vegas for what it's worth. I mean, you know, that area has had almost very little in the way of professional sports in general,
Yeah, at all. Yeah.
let alone hockey, right? I mean,
Right.
you know, and the you know, the poor franchise in Phoenix is just kind of
Oh
on
my
its
God.
last legs,
Last
unfortunately.
leg. Yeah.
Ooh, and that's a tough thing, you know. It's rough to think about, right? Because when you look at like a franchise like that, like the Coyotes, and like, you know, would they be better off if, you know, they put another franchise in Quebec, or, you know, would
Yeah.
they be better off if they, you know, gave Kansas City a team or something like that?
Hmm.
Who knows? But, you know, at the end of the day, it's always sad to see franchises come and go. And I mean, it's more prevalent, I feel like, in hockey than anything else. I mean, you know,
Totally.
in the '90s alone, well, actually, yeah, into the 2000s. But I mean, you lost the Hartford Whalers, you lost the Atlanta
Hmm.
Thrashers. You know, so it's like,
Thrasher's like best like name for a team ever. Also,
oh
like
yeah,
such great branding. Such a
oh, it's,
shame.
I know it really is, and it's,
Yeah.
you know,
I
tough
think it would
markets,
work
but
now. I
yeah, oh yeah,
honestly, I think if they brought the Thrashers into Atlanta now
hmm,
in
Yeah.
2022,
oh yeah,
It
the
would be a
way
way bigger thing.
a
oh
way
yeah,
bigger thing, and I think that the city would definitely embrace it more as
hmm,
Totally.
like because they've embraced that, you know, the MLS soccer team that's come
oh
there.
Absolutely.
yeah, oh yeah,
Yeah.
So I feel like hockey and soccer share similar fans. So
Yeah.
like
No,
I think
they're
it
kind of
totally
like
could
the
work.
younger brother professional sports, you know? Like
yeah.
NHL and MLS are like they're buddies, you know?
Yeah. Oh yeah. They
Yep.
kind of, you know, it's, you kind of have to be like, you know, almost in that space where you've got, you know, Major League Baseball who've been around for, I don't know, 175 years or some
Right.
nonsense, and
Yeah.
then the NFL and the NBA that are, complete juggernauts in the space.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was even that way on, up until now, at least, now that ESPN kind of has a stake in the NHL. But before that,
Mhm.
after the lockout, like you wouldn't be caught dead talking about hockey on
Right.
on ESPN. It's just like
Yeah.
they'd rather talk about LeBron's shoelaces than talk about
Right.
the triple OT game 6 win. So,
Yeah.
but
Right.
I get it. It's a tough gig, but yeah, I think with Nashville, the Preds franchise just coming up, and even
Yeah.
in Florida with between the Bolts and the Cats, I mean the Panthers are perennially, other than that kind of run they had in the 90s with John Van Beesbroek and Scott Mellenby. I mean, it's like
Mhm.
nobody really cared about the Panthers, and now the Panthers are on this just
They're huge.
enormous run, and
Yeah.
all of a sudden people are just flocking. So
Yeah.
you love to see it. You do. I mean,
Yeah.
any time that the NHL gets its due, I kind of love it. So,
Yeah.
but cool. So let's talk a little bit about another kill for the highlight reel, right? So,
Cool.
that record came out last year. I think it was like end of October,
Yeah. It was
sort of
Halloween.
deal. And and that was your first on Epitaph. Was that correct?
Mhm.
Awesome.
Wait, was Merci on Epitaph? I wasn't in the band for Merci. I think they might have done the re-release of it. I don't know.
Yeah, that would probably make sense.
Yeah.
I and that's like a big thing with
Yeah.
if you have a back catalog, they all want it. But
Right.
I mean, another kill for the highlight reel is really kind of something else. I mean, like
Yeah.
just the way it was composed, the way it was built, and just knowing that I mean, you've got a front man essentially in the band,
Mhm.
who's kind of like taking point on everything and just has this vision, and the way it's executed is really just something else. It's kind of something you really don't often see.
Yeah.
So I just would love to hear about how the relationship with Epitaph blossomed, and kind of what the experience was like, releasing a record on a label that has been around for so long and has held esteemed bands on it and all that
Yeah.
kind of stuff.
Honestly, it was just like, we were doing the album and they were like, okay, you're doing the album. Here's money to do the album. And then, we made it and we're like, please like this. Like once we did all the like demos and stuff, they were
Mhm.
very excited about it, which was super affirming, right?
Awesome. Yeah.
And then, once we had once we actually went and tracked it and did the whole thing,
Mhm.
they were like doubly stoked on it. I was like, okay, you're down with this
Awesome.
like 2000s emo revival. Let's go.
Yeah,
For
sure.
sure. So they like really backed it, which was like, it's not like it's surprising sometimes because I think a lot of bands will get on labels, which is, it's great. It's a great opportunity just having the name backing you, right? But oftentimes bands will get on these labels and then like they actually don't get the next release that they do pushed by that label as well. And there's a lot of reasons why that happens, right? But it's very affirming to be the release that gets really pushed, especially as like a new band on the label, like trying to kind of like make a name within the fans, like just of that label alone. Because, we see the things that like on the Epitaph, like YouTube channel, like the comments about us, they're very polarizing. Like,
Oh, I get that.
Yeah.
I can understand that, but like, the funny thing about Epitaph is like Epitaph is it's a very different entity, right now.
Yeah.
Like, because when you think about, at least when I think about Epitaph, right, I think of like, the mid to late 90s where a lot of it was just like, it was punk and it was melodic punk and it was like skate punk and it was all that. But I mean, like now you look at the label, right? I mean, you got Save Face, right? You've got, a band like
Magnolia Park.
Magnolia
Oh,
Park,
yeah.
yeah,
Love that band.
who are good buddies
Yeah.
of ours. But you've got, The World Is a Beautiful Place, right? You've got, I think like Joyce Manor, I think are still, I think they're putting out the new record on Epitaph. You've got, Pianos Become the Teeth. So I mean, like you've got Teenage Wrist even too. So you've got like a lot of these bands who are like outside of that mold of what you'd think about Epitaph. And I can get that, like, music like that, like music like yours or music like, from a band like Pianos Become the Teeth could definitely, like rub an Epitaph Epitaph fan
Right.
the wrong
Yeah.
way, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, we talk about it all the time. You know, one of our favorite labels in Pure Noise Records, and like another one of our favorite labels in Counterintuitive Records.
Mhm.
Record labels aren't afraid to like shift away from their mold, right?
Yeah.
So, and I think that's an important thing. So, you know, even if fans are kind of having that polarizing effect, have you felt that Epitaph just like as a record label and as like a family have kind of welcomed you guys in and given you the freedom to do what you want to do?
They've definitely embraced us and given us a lot of like,
Awesome.
creative freedom there,
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think it's interesting, these like, I hesitate to say older labels, but labels that were punk labels when
Yeah.
punk was, the thing, right? The
Mm-hmm.
counterculture.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's really interesting to see those labels actually like evolve with
Yeah.
like the times, because I think it's so easy to just be like, well, this is what we're doing forever, right? And
Yeah.
like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and sure you keep your like label fans or whatever, but like, how do you actually grow and keep a name within like a scene that's constantly changing and growing? Like,
Yeah.
alternative music can mean 1,000 different things
Oh
now,
yeah.
which is what didn't used to be the case. So
Oh yeah.
I think it's
Mm-hmm.
really like cool to see a label like that be very down with like the change and the growth from like a scene that they've supported for a long time, but that is now so different.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. But I feel
Yeah,
very supported by them, definitely.
Awesome.
Yeah.
yeah. I guess it just reminds me of like Warp Tour, like
Mhm.
the transition that Warp Tour had to go through. Like when they first were starting, it was just your traditional punk bands and
Mhm.
skate punk bands, and then towards the end, you had like just all over. Like I saw Chase Atlantic play the last Warp Tour,
Right.
which is like
Yeah.
the furthest thing from what Warp Tour started as.
Yeah.
And like you just have to kind of just grow and be down with and we don't need gatekeepers in this scene.
No,
Like
not
we
at
don't.
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Because then we're not going to
it's
have any more fun music. If you
Yeah.
gatekeep a sound, like nobody's going to evolve
Yeah.
or change,
Mm-hmm. And I think that like that's another wonderful thing about this kind of music, how it's constantly evolving, and it doesn't have to be one thing in order to like be alternative or be punk, right? Like, like look at a band like Just Friends, right? I mean,
Mhm.
like like Sam is a maniac. Like
Yeah,
he's a
it's true.
complete maniac. But I mean, like the kind of music that they're writing, like it like if you want to talk about genre bending, I mean, like that's it. I mean,
Yeah,
you
totally.
you talk about funk and soul and hip hop and punk and ska and like everything that is a part of what Just Friends is as a collective. But
Yeah.
that's alternative music. It like
Mhm.
you don't have to just D-beat everything or
Right.
have like a breakdown or have like an 808 bass drop and like like you don't have to do that constantly. And I think
Mhm.
that that's like a really wonderful thing about how this quote unquote alternative scene has developed into kind of the coming years. So I definitely embrace that. And I embrace bands like Save Face that are willing to kind of take it back 20 years, right? And
Yeah.
kind of play a style of music that is is very much something that Mikey and I like grew up with. Like our formative years, you know 13, 14, 15. I mean, we were, what was that? 2001, 2002, 2003. I mean, we used to have a segment on this show called Only 2001 through 2005, where we literally talked about records that came out in that 4-year period. Cause that's when we
Mhm.
went to high school. Right. But I
Yeah.
mean, like that stuff, like was stuff that like, we like was so important to us, like
Yeah.
bands like like Rufio or like Midtown or
Yeah.
the
Love
early
Midtown.
November. I love Midtown too, and I'm
Yeah.
super stoked that they're coming back and playing
Yeah,
some
it's so
shows. Yeah,
cool.
they are, and a lot of people forget, like even though Gabe Supporter got all Hollywood on us,
Yeah.
he's a Jersey boy,
Yeah.
He's a Jersey boy through and through, and that's kind of something I'd love to talk about. So I know you grew up in Ohio, but
Mhm.
like Save Face, I guess as a collective is like they kind of rep Jersey, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'd love to just kind of hear how somebody from Ohio got linked up with musicians from Jersey. How did that happen?
Yeah. So take it back to like 2015, 2016, right?
All
That's
right.
like about, I had started touring like a few years before then. Tyler had also started touring a few years before that with Safe
Hmm.
Face.
Okay.
And they came through, like, I was living in Columbus at the time, came through Columbus a couple times, whatever. My old band, Everyone Leaves, we were like, trying to do some touring one summer. I think that was 2016. And Safe Face was doing like huge, like 60-day, like mega DIY tour. And so, yeah, we linked up with them for like, I think it was like 2 weeks of that or something. But that's basically how I met Tyler. Like, and from there we like, I was like number one Safe Face fan. Like, love that band.
Awesome.
And then Tyler and I just like we became very close, like very fast.
Hmm.
And it was always the sort of thing because Safe Face was often like having these like changing members. Often I was
Hmm.
like, hey, well, if you ever need a bassist, like hit me up. And then it just like finally like happened, like he hit me up back in 2019 and was like, hey, do you want to like do this tour with Just Friends? And I was like, hell yeah, I want to do this tour.
Yeah.
And then like I was like, but also like I'll stick around. Like
That's awesome.
and then yeah, he was just like, I think we got like a couple shows into that tour and he's like, yeah, you have to be here forever now. I was
Oh, I
like,
love
okay,
that.
cool.
And like
um
in my mind, it's like I find it like was it like a ceremonial passing of the torch? Like instead of like a torch, though, you were handed like a red jumpsuit and gloves. Like
right,
was it
yeah.
was it as theatrical as that, where they were like,
Oh,
I bestow this upon you?
nah, it was just, I think, years and years of begging, and Tyler was just like, yeah, you know what? I should just finally let you do this because other people keep leaving this band. I was like, you're never gonna get rid of me, no
There
matter
you
how
go.
hard you try.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, so it's funny though, like I joke a lot that like uh it can't be a coincidence that I joined Safe Face and then we went into our goth era. Like that had to have something to do with me
Oh, absolutely.
as a little hell spawn coming in.
That's awesome. I love it.
Yeah. But I
Cool.
rep Jersey hard too. I think I'm like by proxy New Jerseyan now. Uh, I catch myself getting that like Jersey road rage now. I'm like,
Yeah.
ugh,
Well,
rough.
it's funny. I was looking through, I guess, some of the press for Another Kill, and I think Tyler had done an interview talking about uh, Jeff from Thursday's feature,
Oh
on
yeah, yeah.
the record, and more so, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Tyler said like it's more than just like a feature. It's just like like this part was for Jeff. Like we
Oh,
wanted Jeff,
hmm.
and you know, that's just like a person who, as far as Jersey is concerned, I mean, like you don't get much more Jersey than that. I mean,
Absolutely.
than Thursday, and it's such a shame. Thursday came around and I ended up missing them, which I'm kind of kicking myself about.
Yeah.
But I'd love to hear kind of what that like experience was like in the studio, getting to like work with Jeff, and just kind of like, I don't know if you got a lot of time to like chat with him or anything like that, or kind of what was that like?
We actually didn't get to like be with Jeff at all. Like he just gave us his
Oh,
part,
okay.
but
That's a
which is
bummer.
cool. I mean, like we still like had to talk to him obviously
Mhm.
to do that, but it was just kind of crazy. Like we had that song and Ty was just like, yeah, this should be like a feature, and we were just kind of like racking our brains about people, and both of us were kind of like, ah, it'd be really cool if Rickley could do it. Like that
Yeah.
would
Right.
be crazy, right?
Yeah.
And then like we were talking about it with Brett Romness, our producer, and
Hmm.
he's like, I'll just call Jeff. We were like, okay, yeah, sure.
That's awesome.
Sometimes it just works out like that, the beauty of the like incredibly small world of the music
Yeah.
industry is that like you can mention offhand, oh, we'd love if this person did that. And somebody
Hmm.
is like, I know that person, like I'll make it happen. Um, so yeah, it was very cool to keep it super New Jersey there. We also had this moment on the tour when we were in Atlanta. We were playing at the Masquerade the same night as like the tour that Thursday was jumping on, like 2 or 3 days later, and I was like, oh my God, if they had been on this date and we could have had Jeff like actually do the feature
Do
like
the
at the
feature,
show,
yeah,
we were so
yeah.
upset. We were just a few days late, like this, or a few days early rather.
Hmm. That's
Yeah.
it really is a kind of a wild thing. So just like to kind of ask a question of curiosity about that tour. So I mean, I don't want to speak for you, but I'll ask you.
Mhm.
You know, both of those records that the Wonder Years performed, right? Being Suburbia and the Upsides, right? I mean, they're like two pretty seminal records in like this kind of
Yeah.
new wave of pop punk. So, I guess, are you one of the people that kind of felt like a strong connection to those records? Would you say?
So weirdly enough, no.
Okay.
I like I went through my like pop punk thing, when I was in high school, like
Okay.
around 2012 to 2014, right?
Okay. Yep.
And I got in and out of it so fast that I missed the Wonder Years.
Okay. Sure.
And then I actually like, I'd heard a lot of their music, didn't have any ill will, didn't like,
Yeah.
hate
Of
that band at
course.
all.
Hmm.
But I didn't actually get really into them until the first time I toured with them in
Hmm.
2017,
Okay.
which was on the Burst and Decay tour, so totally different from anything else that they like
Yeah,
made.
for sure.
But yeah, I like it was a really fun moment to like go through getting into the Wonder Years in my 20s. Like that was like pretty fun.
Hmm.
Um, and so now it's like, I don't have that like nostalgia for those albums, but I
Sure.
do
Sure.
like love those albums so much, and
Oh
getting
yeah.
to see those shows like because it's like an absolute marathon, it's a
Oh
2 hour
yeah.
set,
It's
and
insane.
just
It's insane.
seeing how passionate these fans are, and just getting to like feel that energy in a room is
Hmm.
like there's nothing like that, like they're such
Hmm.
an important band to so many people, and like
Yeah.
they are kind of like forefathers of like this era, of pop
Exactly.
punk, emo,
For
whatever you want
sure.
to call it.
Hmm.
So just getting to be around that at all was like just as special as having been into those albums for many
Yeah.
years.
For sure.
So I want to dive into this because, Tom and I are like the target demographic of the Wonder Years fan base. Like,
Yeah.
I guarantee that when you guys were playing, you were just looking out and seeing a bunch of middle-aged dudes with beer bellies, like past their prime. And, for people our age, it's tough to find new music sometimes. And like,
Hmm.
we were super passionate, super involved in the music scene in the early 2000s. And then, life happens. So
Right.
like, you just don't have the time to really like invest in new bands, but it doesn't mean like that passion has went away. It's just like,
Right.
it's hard to do it. And I'm imagining that like you guys probably won over a bunch of like people that are literally just like Tom and I, who probably were watching your set and are like, oh, this got like some My Chemical Romance vibes. Like that was a very important band to me. And like to see that like this younger band is like kind of paying homage to that early 2000s emo era. Like I'm sure that you guys were just winning over a ton of middle-aged dudes and girls that
Yeah.
that
I
kind
mean,
of
it
past
definitely
their
felt
prime.
like that. It definitely felt like that because, a lot of the sentiment from people was like, oh my God, like I haven't heard a band that sounds like this since like I was a kid.
Yeah. Hmm.
And that, that's so affirming because obviously we all like love that music too. So
Yeah.
it's really nice when people are like, oh, you're hitting the mark perfectly, like
Hmm.
without like being too like matchy.
Yeah.
Like I think that I don't know. It's really nice when people are like, "Oh, you just are doing the thing that I like. You're not
Yeah.
copying the thing that I
Oh
like."
yeah. And
Um,
that's something that I think is tough for a lot of musicians because that's the last thing you want is for someone to be like, oh, you sound like My Chemical Romance. It's like, do we maybe like have their aesthetic? Do we
yeah.
maybe write songs that are like similar in terms of the energy? Yeah,
Mhm.
but like, do we sound like My Chemical Romance? No, and
I think we do, honestly, but it's
okay,
like I think like that that's more of a product of us making the thing that we wanted to, you know. It's
Yeah.
like it's not us being like, oh, well, we need to do all of these things so that we
Yeah.
sound like this. It's us being like, well, I like the way this sounds, so like let's
Yeah.
do this sound, and like let's do this like vocal delivery like this because we like that, you know.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so getting to sound like a band that you love, like that's a compliment. Like
Awesome.
I'm like, I don't care if you say that we sound like a band, but when someone's like, "Oh, well, you just like tried to do this," like we didn't. We actually really didn't. It just happened.
That's fair.
But
Yeah.
you could pull it off. Like
Yeah.
it's one thing if you try it and then just like fail miserably and like
Right.
or like kind of disrespecting, you know, a band that was so important in the scene.
Yeah.
But like you guys pull it off, so it's like we talked with this band Glimmers a couple of episodes ago, and they've like covered Paramore and like covered it just as well as Paramore, which is like not even just like the vocal part, but like instrumentally, like covered it correctly. And it's like, yeah, you know what? They did it and they did it well. So like you got to respect that.
People can see when it's genuine and when it's not, I think is what it comes down to. Is like people can tell whether you're like trying really hard to be like this thing or if you are like this thing because you like this thing, you know.
Yeah.
I think that that's where the line is drawn. Like people can really see through like faking it, I think. I think like that's the thing that a lot of bands like fuck up is like they try too hard to be something that they're not, and then it ends up just falling apart, you know.
Oh yeah.
You just have to do what you like and then you'll be the band that you want to be, you know.
Yeah, at the end of the day, you know, being an artist, right, means that you're fulfilling your own, you know, creative needs, you know.
Yeah.
And if you, and I guess you know, if your creative needs are, you know, fulfilled by, you know, I guess, you know, having influences that are from all over the place, and you know, or specifically one place, like, you know, what difference really does it make where it comes from, as long as it's being delivered in a way that satisfies everyone in the band, creatively. And then of course, you know, and that will breed people liking it, you know. Like I kind of feel like if you are trying too hard to manufacture anything, whether it's, you know, emulating something or just trying too hard to manufacture music, it's not going to stick, right? Because like it's you know, it's the same thing with even like, you know, professional sports or anything. It's like, you know, if somebody doesn't love what they're doing, it's going to show in how they execute and how they perform.
Absolutely.
And fans are sure as shit gonna call it out, you know, because that's what they do.
That's
everybody
what fans do.
Yeah, everybody's got a voice, and that's what they're all about. So before we you know, it's kind of slither into some hockey talk here, I just want to like really kind of, you know, pull it back to you know, when you were wee, you know, you were young, and what really excited you about kind of getting into alternative music? Was there like a particular band or a particular like show that you can remember that really like sparked your love for this type of music and made you decide that, okay, like this is what I want to do?
I can think of like probably two like distinct moments. As far as bands, it's like I think I heard Everclear. I heard So Much for the Afterglow, and like
Great record, love
it
record,
blew my mind as like a tot, like a 4-year-old or something like that. I don't remember exactly when the album came out, but I remember like that and like my dad would play like the Goo Goo Dolls. So like, you know, two great bands that I can remember, like me and my brother, he's only a year older than me, so we're about the same age. The two of us just like dancing to as like children. And my dad was like a wrestling coach, so he always had like playlists made, like CDs, or like when he got his like first iPod, like so his wrestlers would like load on stuff that they were listening to.
Okay.
And that's how I heard like My Chem and Hawthorne Heights and like Devil Wears Prada and like bands like that.
For sure.
And like so I was always kind of around it, just like not even very intentionally. And yeah, I always wanted to play. I didn't really understand what I wanted to do. I think when I realized I wanted to play, I just listened to way too much Blink for a very long time.
Sure.
And then, yeah, I like, there was just like one night when I was like 12 where my dad and I were looking for something to do. And so he like took me to like a local show. and it was awesome. And I was just like, it was like a metalcore band and like an emo band, and like it's like a
Love it.
good mix bill, you know, like.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And I was just like, this is like everything that I want to do.
Love it.
And then, you know, from there we would go to like many shows, you know, up until I could drive myself, and then I was going to them alone.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was like so quick from like, you know, knowing that I liked that type of music and then actually seeing people play it, like that blew my mind. Like I was like, oh, you can just do this and this can be like your life. And now it's like when I think about that, like that moment of being at, well, it used to be the House of Crave in Columbus, which was a venue that had a White Castle in it.
There you go.
Very
That's a
weird.
that's a great name for a venue.
Like
Then. Yeah.
like a
Yeah.
White Castle burger place, or just like
Yes.
a like
Like it had like a stand, like the bar window was like a White Castle. Very strange.
I love
and
that.
It's
called
not that
House of-
anymore.
Wait, so it
was-
was called House of Crave,
Yep.
right? Because that's what the like 30 pack is called,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like a Crave
Crave
case.
case. Yeah.
Yeah, man. I get it. That's
Oh my
awesome.
God.
Tremendous.
Yeah.
And that place
Yeah.
doesn't exist anymore. I feel like that's a
Well,
gold mine.
it's still a venue. It's called the A&R Bar now, because it's Live Nation now.
And
As they
kicked White
all
Castle
are.
out.
They kicked White Castle out, sadly.
Man,
But
and
yeah,
they got like the Impossible slider now. Like I
know,
feel like
it's so good.
yeah, I feel like that
It'd
totally
be great.
would be the target demographic to
Yeah,
have
punks
like,
would love it.
like,
Drunk punks in a White Castle? Are you kidding
yeah.
me?
Absolutely.
Oh my God.
No, like you'd make
Let's
money
just
hand,
copy that.
hand over
That's
fist.
Yeah.
like the best idea I've ever heard, and I'm just gonna steal it now.
Yeah, there you go.
Listen, if we do it at Will's, we could oh God, we can then probably only fit like 100 people inside of it. Awesome. I'm all for it. I think that's great. I wish there was a House of Crave. The only thing I ever remember was there was this venue on Long Island that had like a pizza oven in it, which was super
Oh,
cool.
nice.
Did you ever go to 89 North, Mikey, in Patchogue? No.
No.
Yeah, pizza oven in it. It was great. They had a good
Pizza,
buffalo chicken
was it a
slice.
pizza dungeon? Because I love a pizza dungeon venue.
It was not a dungeon. I wish it was a dungeon. It was like very much like a venue that like probably shouldn't have had like alternative shows. Like it was probably built for like
Yeah.
much different. Like it was like really
Yeah.
nice and like
So,
had
like
a big
jazz shows.
probably yeah. But
Yeah.
for some reason, like I saw Citizen play there and Turnover.
Oh, nice.
And I don't
Cool.
know. It was great. It was a great time. But
Hold on.
you know
Before you go where you're going,
what?
is Pizza Dungeon a thing? Like
Uh,
because I've been to one and I didn't like I went to this underground pizza place in this old city that I lived in, Troy, New York, and it was like my favorite like pizza place that no one knew about. And I guess that would be a pizza dungeon, and I didn't
Yeah.
even know that that's like a term.
It's kind of I don't know if it's like a real thing. It's definitely a thing that people from Columbus reference a lot now, because we had shows, or still have shows, in this place called Donato's in their basement. And so that was like the punk venue. It's like a 150 cap or something like that.
I love that. I love
And we
that.
always called that the Pizza Dungeon. But there are all these venues across the U.S. that are just basement pizza joints. Like there's one in Louisville called Spinelli's that is like legendary, and like
How
has,
crazy is that?
yeah,
That's
it's
so
it's wild. Like there's I don't know, there was like this viral photo on Tumblr way back when it's like a pizza warmer, and it's got like a label on it that says "Please do not mosh into the pizza warmer," and that's from Spinelli's in Louisville. Because
great.
they would have hardcore shows mostly. Like Knocked Loose played there like hella times, because they're from around those parts, and like
Yeah, of course.
so I think that the Pizza Dungeon has become this like very like warm place in my heart, and I think probably a lot of other people too. It's like there's just something about going into a basement pizza place and seeing a punk show, like it feels
yeah.
very right in the world.
And it
I remember-
just smells so
yeah.
good and
Probably,
gross
yeah.
at the same time.
Oh yeah, it's
Mhm.
probably horrendous. And then like, add on that all like the stale beer, and it's
Yep.
just like a safe haven for everyone. I
Yeah.
remember one time I was at a Warped Tour or something. I was seeing Every Time I Die, and the only reason I can think about this is because I think he asked for like a slice of pizza or something, but he was like about to introduce Board Stiff, which if you're familiar with the song, it's like kind of
Yeah.
got very like, sort of like two-steppy sort of circle pit vibes. And he was
Mhm.
like, I want you guys to circle pit over to this pizza stand. I want you to circle pit me a pizza. I want you to circle pit it back to me. And it
Oh
was
my
just
God.
like, it was just Keith being Keith, man. It was just
It's
just
so
great
funny.
stuff. That's one of the saddest things, seeing that band dissolve, but that's
Yeah. Oh my God.
another story for another time.
Yeah.
But before we jump into talking some Blue Jackets, I do want to tell everyone about our sponsor, and our sponsor is DraftKings. And DraftKings is really awesome. And now that we are kind of maybe 2 or 3 weeks at most, maybe 4 away from the playoffs. You can feel the action on the ice like you've never done. And that's with DraftKings Sportsbook. So they're the official sports betting partner of the NHL. And right now, all new customers can bet just $1 on any team to win, and they get $150 in free bets. So it's like 150 to 1 odds. That's fantastic. You can't beat that. If Sportsbook isn't available in your state yet, you could still hit the ice for cold, hard cash. New customers can make their first deposit and play for free for thousands of dollars with DraftKings daily fantasy hockey contests. So draft your lineup of 8 skaters and a goalie, rack up points for goals, assists, saves, and a bunch more. And as always, DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable. And best of all, you can deposit and withdraw your money whenever you want. So go and download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. If you haven't done it already, shame on you, because we've been telling you to do it for like 60 episodes. And we've also been telling you to use that promo code THPN. That would be for the Hockey Podcast Network, THPN. You bet just $1 on any NHL team, and you get $150 in free bets. I mean, you can't beat that. That's super cool. So again, that's code THPN, and that's at DraftKings Sportsbook, and they are the official sports betting partner of the NHL. And you remember, you got to be 21 years or older. Restrictions apply. And check out our show notes for details, disclaimers, and all that fun stuff. But go do it. Every time you go download the DraftKings, app, anytime you do anything with DraftKings Daily Fantasy, it helps us out. We need money for stuff. We need money to do bar down breakdown stuff. Hockey's expensive,
like a music festival, and paying 12 bands. So
yeah,
yes, we do need money.
So go click. Even if you don't like it, I don't know what to tell you, but you at least you tried. So yeah, awesome. So yeah, we're still chilling with RB. So don't think they left. They're still here.
I'm still here.
Still chilling hard. And as far as chilling hard is concerned, let's talk chilling on the ice. Let's talk a little bit of Blue Jackets hockey. So would love to kind of hear how you first got into hockey, and kind of what drew you to the sport, and a little bit of kind of your young fandom, I guess.
Yeah. It's weird because I wasn't really into hockey. I was like a child before the Blue Jackets were a thing, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But like I would see the here and there games if my parents were watching sports for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the Jackets came around, and my stepdad actually worked for Nationwide, so
okay.
that's our arena. So we
Sure.
were able to like go to some games when I was a kid, and it was like immediate for me. Like I went to my first Jackets game, and I was just like, this is my personality forever now. Like, and that kind of continued to be the case. Like I always wanted to play, but when I was a kid, there wasn't like a girls' league, which was a huge bummer. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and now there is, which is awesome,
Yeah.
But like we used to go ice skating there's all the ice rinks in Columbus are called chillers. We would go ice skating at the chiller, and I like always you would see like these hockey teams practicing in there, and like so cool. I was like, I want to do that, whatever. And they were always like, oh, well, you can't, but you should try figure skating. And I'd be like, get out of here. I don't want to figure skate.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But yeah, just Jackets just became like my thing, like in a really big way. So would go to games a ton as a kid, and then when I got into high school, I finally found those people who were also into it, and like
Yeah.
our band directors were season ticket holders, so like anytime
Oh,
that
that's
they couldn't
awesome.
go, they would like pass off tickets to us, and
Oh, that's great. I
yeah,
love
so we,
that.
we had like a little crew that would go,
Yeah.
and oh my gosh, so much fun. Like those the first like I don't know if this is the same for y'all, but there's something very specific about the first game you go to, like without your parents or without like adults. Because I think that's what brings out like the animal in you, right? I feel like that's when I started
I
to like
remember mine.
really chirp and stuff, you know? Like, uh, yeah, something about it, but it's I don't know, it's weird to like think back to like
Yeah.
being a kid surrounded by that. And I think like so quickly, the Jackets just became such like a fixture in the city, like because Columbus just really wants anything to be excited about. And we had just gotten the crew, the soccer team, like a few years prior. So like having the two of those in the city, because it's like you can't have a professional football team in Columbus because OSU is too big of an entity
Yeah, I
that
was
nobody
just
will
gonna
give a
say.
fuck. Yeah,
Yeah.
like nobody will give a fuck about anything but the Buckeyes. So the fact that we have
Hmm.
like a cool hockey team and a cool soccer team, like people are really down to like be fans, you know.
Love that.
So it like really quickly became like such a hockey town, which is was very strange. Like I don't know, like it doesn't seem like a place that would be, but everybody just wants that community, and like
Hmm.
there's something super like, especially as such an underdog team, like there's something electric about like being in
Oh
that
yeah,
arena when things are going good, you know.
for sure.
And when they're going bad, honestly, like everybody's just like so supportive. I think like we just have such pride for the city and for our team,
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah.
something I've
Like,
always felt really blessed by.
yeah, for sure. Like again, we talked about a little bit earlier in the episode, but all of these, quote unquote B markets, what you would have
Yeah.
thought to be B markets for hockey, Nashville, Columbus, Tampa Bay, Vegas,
Hmm.
even
You can't
I mean,
call Vegas a B market. Like
for
it's
hockey,
For
it's a
hockey,
desert,
it's the
man.
desert. Yeah.
There's no natural ice there ever.
Yeah.
But like, but
I don't
even
know.
like, but like, it's funny to even think about like, all of these like markets that are pervaded by other sports, and especially like again, a town like Columbus that's like, like has one of probably the biggest D1 schools,
Yeah.
especially for college football, like
Hmm.
that has ever existed.
Yeah.
I mean, you talk about, Ohio State and like Michigan and, like Auburn and Alabama and like, all these places that are like college football until, like until death,
Yeah.
but you've got this like, you've got this small contingent of people that are ever growing that are, taking on the, the Blue Jackets again as like a community. And you got to love that,
Hmm.
it really is
Yeah.
such a cool thing. But yeah, and I saw, firsthand. I was, my wife and I went to Nashville for my birthday a couple of months ago, and I mean, like we were in town for, just to like have a good time, but it just so happened that we went there during like what ended up being the first Titans wild card game. So I mean,
Oh.
like Broadway in Nashville was absolutely packed, but the chatter that you'd hear, because I think it was either the night, it might have been the night that they played. I think the Preds were like playing in town, and like people were just like, if the Titans suck, at least we go see the Preds, and it's just like, who the hell like would ever think that that would be something that someone
Yeah.
from Nashville would say?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, we could just, if the Titans, don't get out of this first round, it's not that big a deal. We'll just, go watch the Preds play. And it's like, wow, you never
Yeah.
could imagine that. So,
Yeah.
thinking about like something, even a couple of people, leaving like, an OSU game devastated and just being like, well, at least we got the Jackets tonight. It's like, what?
Right.
But
Yeah.
again, hell yeah, whatever, whatever can be pushed towards, making hockey a cool thing, I'm all for it. I am all
Hmm.
for it. So, kind of stepping forward, kind of to, around today's time, right? That you've been kind of in your Jackets fandom now for some time. Like not to hammer away on, like needle on stats or anything, but like it's been kind of a tumultuous year for the Jackets, as it
Absolutely.
has been for our hometown Islanders. I feel like we're kind of in the same boat. And to be honest, up until maybe a month ago, the Islanders weren't even in that boat. They had already sunk, and somehow they pulled it together. But as far as kind of what you think the Jackets are going to need to kind of make that step into contention next year, what are you looking for?
I've been complaining about this for weeks, actually. There's this big fight right now about Patrick Laine, because he, fell off for a bit, weeks ago for a hot second.
Yeah.
And everybody's talking about how we need to get Laine out of there and get somebody else up there on the top line. I'm like, like, we can't keep being in a rebuild year every single year. Like, I think that's the issue, is that a lot of Jackets fans, they are clamoring for like any new blood to be like excited about. And I think on like the rookie side of things, we have a lot to be excited about. We've got like two of the youngest players in the league right now. Like there's something very special about that, and something like getting to see these players become like who they're going to be in the league moving on. I think that it's our first year with Brad Larson, who is great. Moving on from Torts is wonderful. Just from the mental health of the players alone, because that was always like the big issue, especially when there weren't fans because of COVID. So I think all we really need is for people to like trust the process of the rebuild. I think that after losing Seth Jones, that was like a huge blow to us, and honestly ended up working out because he kind of fell off. But honestly, like we have a winning season right now. Like obviously that's not going to work out for us as far as like picks are concerned, but like that's never been the play here. Like Jackets start losing, they're not like, okay, well, let's throw it now for the sake of getting picks, right?
Of course.
Always been like, we're gonna fight and just see what happens, and that's how we end up with like 6-0 against the Canes, right? Like against a team that we should never have beat, like on prime time, like ESPN, like that was so huge for us, and that's so easily a game that we could have just tossed because we weren't doing well at the time. So I think that just trusting that the next few years will really build these lines out to be something special, because I think we've just had so much changeover, to where you can't get these lines that have like that are gelling, right? So I think that if we just keep on and just like trust the plan, right? Like I think that it will come to fruition, and if we can keep these young guys like Cole Sillinger, he's fucking unreal for how young he is, and if we can keep him around, like he's going to be a fucking legend, and I think that we have a few young players like that like if we can just keep kind of fostering that and like allowing these like amazing like older players like Jake Voracek to like help in that regard, I think that we do have a shot, like it's not out of the question for the Jackets to like have playoff contention, like it's happened. Like it can happen again. I just think that we've had more years than not for this team have been a rebuild year, right? Or the start of a rebuild rather.
And that's tough, and that's really, really tough.
It's tough.
But like I know that it was another huge thing for Jackets fans last year, and I remember when the rumors were kind of circling about Foligno, potentially making a move, and then he has like the tiniest cup of coffee with the Leafs, and then now kind of ends up on the Bruins. But I mean, he was your guy for what, 8 or 9 years?
Very long time.
So like, the Islanders dealt with a similar situation losing Tavares. So like, kind of what was it like using losing one of your best players? Like, did you have that feeling of dread? Like, oh my God, like, what are we going to do? Like a lot of Islanders fans kind of felt, I feel like was like, how could this have happened?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, losing Foligno definitely like hurt. It was like a big blow to the fans for sure. Because you get to that point, you get close to a decade with a guy, and
Hmm.
you're like, oh, that's our guy, like forever,
Yep.
And that's such a nice feeling, to have that. And we had like a similar thing with like Cam Atkinson, and like
That's right.
losing the
Yeah.
two of them was like such a blow, And so
Hmm.
now it's like, I think people are having a hard time choosing who to be excited about because we're like afraid of abandonment
Yep.
now a
Yep.
little bit.
Hmm.
Which like that's definitely I definitely feel that in my heart, and I think that that is like a huge reason why so many people are like, well, let's just like get rid of, anybody who's like falling off even in slightest.
Hmm.
They're like, well, let's get rid of them so that we can have somebody who's going to be our guy now. It's like you can't keep clamoring for that. You have to build that. Like that's what
Hmm.
happened with Foligno is like we just over time like he just became the guy, like
Yeah.
it doesn't happen overnight. I think that
Agreed. Yeah.
people really like trick themselves in that they're like, oh, you want that match that's going to happen immediately. That's never how it's going to go,
Hmm.
um, but I think that like we have the potential to have guys like that, who will stick around forever. At least I
Yeah.
hope so. um, um, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, losing Lino is rough. And any time that I get to, see him play now, it is still just a treat, like,
Hmm.
I actually, and Cam Atkinson too, like my partner and I went to Jackets Flyers in Columbus like last week,
Yeah.
and like the response for Cam in the arena is like insane because he's
Hmm.
like, he's the guy, and like he
Yeah.
also still lives in Columbus, like he loves
Oh,
the
wow.
city, and so that's like,
That's
it's
awesome.
it's very bittersweet,
Yeah.
when you
Of
see those
course.
guys that you love
Hmm.
and who did so much for you, um, and seeing them have to fight for someone else. It's like it's hurtful, but it's like,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, you still want to support these, incredible athletes that
Of
you've
course.
had, that you have the pleasure of getting to see, regardless of like their team affiliation.
Yeah, I guess I want to kind of chime in on just like some of the superstars that you guys have lost over the years because you're only a couple of years removed from that like historic upset against Tampa Bay.
Oh,
And like,
this
that
is the best time of my life. It's
yeah.
the best time to be a fucking Jackets fan.
Yeah, and it seems like it was so long ago, but it really, at the end of the day, wasn't that long
No.
ago. But it's a completely different team from
Yeah.
that team that upset them. And I guess, I could speak for Tom and myself. Like, we have not spent any time in Columbus, but it seems like a very blue collar city that, like, kind of seems similar to like a Buffalo. Like,
Definitely.
it's not like a place where these, you know, European superstars or Russian superstars like Panarin, for example,
hmm
are going to be like, you know what?
My baby.
I'm going to go live in Columbus, Ohio, and
Yeah.
this is where I'm
Right.
going to live forever. And like,
Yeah.
when you think about, nationwide, it's now getting to be one of the older buildings in the NHL. And I know that
hmm
probably seems weird to you because like,
Yeah.
it must seem like, oh, we just got the team, but
Right.
it's now slowly becoming, kind of not the state of the art building. And it's also like a blue collar city that's like cold and snowy. That's not
hmm
like a destination for a professional athlete. So like how is like what's like the chatter about like what the organization can do to keep these players around? Like, because you're talking about all this young talent, like it seems like that's the trend. You guys develop all this like young talent, then
And
it
then they
starts to
leave.
be
Yeah.
they become like household names that
Yeah.
everyone in the NHL starts to recognize, and then they leave. And then
Yeah.
you guys are like, and that's what kind of seems like is always going on with the Blue Jackets. And like I said, that this is from someone that's on like the outside looking in. Like
Yeah.
you're there. Like, what's the talk in Columbus about that?
I mean, I don't even really know. It's interesting that you like the blue collar Columbus thing is definitely real, but over the last probably like 10 years, it's really becoming like a tech city in a lot of ways. Like the city is like growing exponentially day by day. Granted, that's not making it a tourist destination, but the things that I've heard, at least like from players in Columbus, are like way more positive than they have been in the past, as far as like the, the quality of life, like when you're on the team, and I don't even like, it's hard to say what would even keep people like that. Fear of abandonment just tells me like, oh, well, no matter what we do, like people are going to leave. And I'm honestly like, it hurts as a fan to know that like we'll develop these players and then they'll leave. But at the same time, I'm like, if we get to be the team that like turns these kids into legends, like there's something really special about that. And I think that we've done that like several times. And I think we're especially doing it now. We have, I think, on average, like the youngest team in the league right now. And I think that there's, I don't know, there's something really beautiful about that, So I'm just like, it's hard to know like when you start a brand new rebuild, right? Like, because you get complacent after years when you have like your pretty set lineup with like very few changes, right? So being in this like first season of like a whole new start, like new coach, a bunch of new superstars, right? Like it's hard to say where do we even go from here, But I just hope that like we can turn some kids into legends and then they'll stay. Like if we can keep like Cole Sillinger and like Chinnikov for like ever, I will be the happiest person alive, I think. Yeah.
Well, one thing that, Travis from No Dice brought up to us when he was on here is the fact that like Rick Nash obviously like was your guy.
He was our guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he left and like he didn't retire with you guys, but he's back now. Like he is involved in the organization, like lives in Columbus. That seems like pretty promising to me when he mentioned that. Like, that's one thing that, because I also feel like the Islanders are kind of similar to the Blue Jackets. Like we got the New York Rangers who are in the city where like the Islanders are out on the island, like in suburbia. Right. Like it's always so hard to compete with that. Example, Panarin, like we were in that conversation, like it was between us and the Rangers at the end of the day. And he picked the Rangers because it's New York City
of course
and Long Island. Like you can't compare.
Yeah.
So like, one thing that the Islanders always had was like, we had those cup years and a lot of those guys that won the cup after they retired stayed on Long Island.
Yeah.
So like that was always
that makes a big difference.
That was very important, Granted, there were a lot of bad years in between there, but like, when John Tavares got drafted and like was the face of the franchise, he was always bumping elbows with these guys that won 4 cups. Like they were always around.
Yep.
Like, so like seeing Nash back and being involved with the organization, like that's pretty important. So like hopefully he can convince some of these younger guys that like, what, Columbus is a great place to raise your family and like stay. So
yeah. I mean, because he stayed for so long, like he's the best, like authority on that, right? Like because he was the guy, and it was so hard when he left, but. And it was interesting. There's like such a divide between people who had bad blood for Nash and the people who were just like, oh, I just miss him. I was definitely on team bad blood because I just liked yelling. But then, when I found out that he was coming back to do, I think he's doing like play coordinator stuff, which is awesome. Great guy to have on that team, right? I think that. He could definitely be like a draw for like people who are wanting to like, learn from somebody like that. I think that having those legendary people, to become peers for your players is like so important.
And listen, you can't count out, Jody Shelley, who like definitely came back to Columbus after just like bashing brains in for like 10 years. You just like you just have to love a good enforcer story, man.
Yeah,
it's so good. I love it.
I saw Jody lose Keith like several times.
I believe
as
that.
A kid too. I have like distinct memories of that, and it's so beautiful.
You want to hear how old I am? I remember going to Syracuse Crunch games when I was in college, and Jody Shelley playing for the Crunch. Like,
oh my god,
that's amazing. Yeah, and then it shifted over to like Zen and Konopka and John Morasti and Derek Brassard. Like that was the team when I was like a senior in college.
Oh, that's so cool.
I love that.
Which also doesn't make sense why like Syracuse was Columbus's affiliate, but
yeah,
the AHL's weird.
It is really weird. Like
makes no sense.
It's hard to pinpoint that.
Yeah, it never really makes a ton of sense. And another cool fact that I just looked up now, just because I was looking up like draft picks and stuff. So it ended up being the Blue Jackets who actually drafted Filatov.
Yep.
Instead, and like broke every Islanders fan's hearts, like, and then we ended up picking
Josh Bailey.
Fucking Josh Bailey.
But now all these years later, who's Nikita Filatov? Like
yeah,
no one knows.
But also like who is Josh Bailey?
I don't know. He's about to play 1,000 games.
Yeah, I think he scored like
really?
8 goals.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
He's one of those
close. I think it's going to happen next season.
Yeah.
That 1,000 mark is wild.
Yeah, it is. I mean, like the amount of strain that playing hockey puts on your body, the fact that there are people that have played 1,000 games. I mean, we could go into this for a crazy amount of time, but like I was somewhere out to dinner and the Caps Flyers game was on, and I saw Ovi score a goal, and I'm like, this guy is gonna play high level hockey until like. He like literally like they're gonna slide his
over and die.
They're gonna slide his coffin onto the ice,
right?
Like it's just gonna be like traveling on the ice, and like TJ Oshie is still just gonna be like
feeding him passes to the top of the circle, and Ovi just still scoring from the casket.
It's wild.
From the grave.
It's wild, but like that is like he's a generational player, man. Like generational. Hockey player, and it's just wonderful to see that kind of stuff. And of course, just knowing that like every time like he'd go to an all-star game, he'd just get like hammered on vodka, just like sauntering around like he owns the place, which essentially I guess he kind of does.
He does,
right? You know,
he really does.
Awesome. So I have one last question for you, and I always like to kind of throw in a little music related question. Just because I'm always curious to hear, what other people are listening to and enjoying. But I guess, it doesn't have to be something that necessarily came out this year or last year, but like, do you have a record that you've been kind of listening to like on repeat ad nauseum that you just like can't get enough of? I know it's putting you on the spot, but.
So I kind of, when it comes to like alt music, I definitely am like an obsessive listener. Like I go back and I listen to Born Without Bones albums like back to back over and over. Right. Yeah. And they also put out that little EP, which is like really cool. Definitely
the reimagined version of there. Yeah.
Yeah. That stuff is really cool. But genuinely what I've been listening to the most lately is this new Charlie XCX album. Like I've probably listened to it like 100 times at this point.
That's awesome.
Which is like really, that's definitely like where my head is at lately. I think like whenever I'm like touring a lot or working on a lot of music, I tend to stray away from like listening to alt music.
That makes sense.
Because I'm like surrounded by it.
Yeah, of course.
Obviously, I've been listening to Spanish love songs a bunch to prepare for tour.
Yeah.
So I can like, get up there,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I was just gonna we were talking about it before, and I was just gonna make just a little comment about the something that I think was so special and interesting about that tour, right? Mm-hmm. So excuse me. So you've got the Wonder Years, right? Who have essentially been in this space for 15 years, I guess, probably even a little bit longer. And they've been like mainstays of this like pop punk revival, right? So which is a fantastic thing, awesome. But so, we were talking about like all the old heads in that, there, right. That are like beer bellies and just like so tired and like probably came out of mosh retirement when like the Wonder Years played My Last Semester and like are like sitting in the back, just like, right. But like, even though Spanish Love Songs hasn't been around as long and like, they've just really, I guess you could probably say with their latest release have really gained a tremendous amount of popularity, and that's nothing against their last record or their record before that, which have been fantastic, right? But that's a band that was specifically geared towards mine and Mikey's generation. Like,
Yeah, absolutely.
like in a nutshell. Like, I mean, so you've got the Wonder Years who people connected with in their 20s, which is why they're back in their mid 30s. You've got Spanish Love Songs, who are a band who people are connecting with now that are in their mid 30s because the content is so real.
Yeah.
Then you've got Origami Angel, who, for all intents and purposes, are
For the
literally like,
Zoomers.
yeah, they're literally like a band that's for like 16 to like 20-year-old, and they literally start every set with Minecraft.
35-year-olds.
Right.
But the point I'm making, right, is like you see Origami Angel, and it doesn't matter how old you are, you're like, holy
This
crap.
band rocks.
And it turns you into a believer. And
Yeah.
all of the like kids that are 15 years younger than you turn around and they're like, this old guy likes this. I guess that's kind of cool. And then you've got Save Face that are like bringing these kind of like early 2000s vibes, right? So like, let's say you went to the show and had no idea who Save Face was and no idea who Origami Angel was, right? Now all of a sudden you're like, man, they hit me in the face immediately with, number one, like this incredible show in front of me, right? Because I mean, that's the one thing like you could say about Save Face. It's just the show you guys put on is like it's almost hard to look away from. It's
We're
just
psychos.
but it's great and it's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that shit. So you've got a band that kind of brings you back to like how you felt and the music that you loved when you were in your 20s. Then you've got a band that the 20-year-olds now all love, but now you love them. Then you've got Spanish Love Songs you connect with, and then you've got the Wonder Years. So it's literally like soup to nuts, a whole show of like, I'm 35 and I feel okay about this, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's a wonderful
something for
thing.
everybody there too, honestly.
Yeah, but on the other side of it is all of the like the younger generation of fans, like they love the Wonder Years because like maybe they got into the Wonder Years with Sister Cities, but then they went back and listened to the Upsides and was like, oh my God.
Which hits for them at their age
and
way
which hits
more.
for them. And then, you know, I think so there's brilliance in that. And I don't know who behind the scenes like did all the calculations to figure out how to bring that tour
Running
together.
the numbers.
But however they did it, they hit it on the mark. They really did. Just beautiful, beautiful stuff. But yeah, so you know, just kind of, you know, on that note, I really had a blast kind of chatting with you about, you know, the record Epitaph. I know you guys have some stuff coming up. What's on the kind of horizon for you guys? I know that there was a tour that's coming up. With whom are you guys going out with? Are you allowed to tell me? I don't know.
Oh yeah, we're going out with Spanish Love Songs and Camp Trash.
Oh, awesome.
And,
okay. Yeah, there you go.
And so that's all of May. And then after that, we're just writing. We're going to try to cook up what's next, you know?
Nice. Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
Great. Love to hear that. Awesome.
Cool beans. Well, RB, this really was just a fun conversation.
Yeah.
And the fact that we got to talk to another Blue Jackets fan is just like unbelievable. Like I really didn't think that was going to happen.
There
like,
aren't many of us, but we're feisty.
Yeah. So it might stay at 2 forever unless like somehow like someone from Beartooth becomes like a Blue Jackets fan, right? Because they're from
I think
Columbus, right?
Taylor from Beartooth is a big Jackets fan. I can't remember.
Listen, it's all about creating those connections because, like I said, when we first started this, we knew of like 4 people that were in alternative bands that liked hockey, and like one of them was in Bayside, and then and then he was like, "Hey, there's a bunch of other people that dig this, like even out in California," and we were like, "No, that's not true." And then like you hear about like you know Vigil wearing a fucking Kings jersey at every show, and you're just like, "Wow, this is
so sick.
This is something else." But we're totally pumped that you took the time to do this with us. Save Face is awesome. If you know, for people that are out here listening that don't know where to find you guys, if you want to just give a quick little social shout,
we are everywhere. I think all of our socials are Save Face NJ.
Awesome.
If I'm not mistaken, I think that's all of them. Yeah. Otherwise, every streaming service, we're all over it.
Hell yeah, love to hear it. Well. Super excited for the tour you guys are going on. Super excited for some new music in the future. And definitely super excited. I probably should share with you just because my wife does occasionally listen to these. And so my wife's not as big of a music fan as I am. And so I dragged her along to this Wonder Years show. And surprisingly, she enjoyed all 4 of the bands. But she made up names for all of the bands that are playing because she couldn't remember the names of the bands that were playing. And
please.
your band name was called Phoebe Bridgers But Red.
Okay, cool.
So I had to share that with you. And I think she called Origami Angel the Kinder Twins because there's 2 of them. So that was great. After like the first Spanish love song happened, and I was like, listen to the lyrics and how like poignant they are. She was like, okay, this is the saddest band in America, so they're now called Saddest Band in America. And my wife has forever called the Wonder Years the Wonder Boys. So
that's awesome.
So,
I think that honestly might be a better name.
I know, and I can try to appeal to them and their
Write
heartstrings.
A strongly worded letter.
Yeah, I'll be like, hey, change your name to the Wonder Boys. And also be better hockey fans, so you can come on this podcast.
Yeah.
But
hey,
hey,
for Origami Angel, we need to get them on. But
I don't even think they couldn't care less about hockey. If we
basketball people.
Yeah, I was gonna say they are.
Told us that many times.
Yeah.
Now, if we do have a special episode about Minecraft, I think we can.
Yeah, you could definitely get
friend
them
Ryland to
you don't know
us.
Shit about Minecraft, and I definitely
that's where you're wrong.
Hey, you can watch like 5 video essays on YouTube and learn everything you need to know.
You can get it, man. Listen, all you need to know is that there's like actual engineering that goes on in that game. Engineering, like real engineering. So get real with it, Michael. RB, thank you so much for taking the time to do this with us. We really appreciate you. We hope you have a wonderful, wonderful night. And like I said, we can't wait to see what's kind of on the horizon. And if by some unreal stretch of the imagination, both the Islanders and the Jackets win out and we somehow make it into the playoffs,
that ain't happening.
Let's have another chat. But I don't think that's happening. But
let's not bet on that.
Yeah,
we can always
go everyone that's listening, don't go on DraftKings and bet on that because you are going to lose. You're going to lose a lot of money.
Go on DraftKings. You can bet on that if you want because technically one bet gets you $150 in free bets. Let me just go back to the thing I read. Yeah, that's correct. So I know that now. But hey, again, thank you so much. We were super, super pumped to have you. You have a wonderful night.
Yeah,
and
thank you for having me.
Thanks again for being on. Take care.
Yeah, you too.